The FallenState is amazing. Subscribe now.
Restless, I am so restless, and this changing world leaves me speechless. I am lost for words, but I kept my...
Hey guys, it's Fleccas. This week we're in West Hollywood where Stormy Daniels is getting keys to the city.
I'd give a key to Stormy. You know, she and our lawyer are doing a really good job of exposing Trump, and that's what we need, because this guy is murder for us.
Would you agree that not all MS-13 members are animals?
Absolutely.
Cool. And then it kind of, yeah, exactly. It's just like a negative, always negative in the news, always negative in the news.
The guys that are running around gangbanging, killing people, they're animals. You know, but the rest of the gang, it's a big gang.
Who's paying you?
I think
Some men are not serious enough or as mature to see something and want to do something about it. Did your parents raise you to be that way? How did you become so serious at such a young age?
I think a lot of it had to do with my parents. I attribute any sort of success I have just kind of as to any sort of success I have from the way I was raised. And I think the men these days, I know people talk about toxic masculinity and how it's a problem, but I think the men today are less masculine than ever.
Absolutely, man. It's a shame.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
So the men today, I think bigger picture, the left promotes a responsibility-less culture. I think it's easy for them to say, oh, let the government take care of you. We'll do free healthcare. We'll do free education. No one has a job. Everyone's in debt. Don't worry about it. And it makes it very hard to lead a responsible life.
Yeah.
And I think I never had that. I grew up in a tough household with strict rules and a good structure. So when I saw these things happening and the people with the loudest voices being taken the most seriously just because their voice was loud, I knew I had to do something.
And so you were raised by father and mother together. Where are you from, you said?
Oh, Long Island originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how did you end up in L.A.?
So I grew up on Long Island. I went to Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, played football there. And then I worked in New York at Citigroup for 2 years, doing like a finance Wall Street job.
Really?
And then I fulfilled my contract, did the 2 years, I did pretty well. And I decided to not go for the next step in the thing was I went from analyst to associate. I decided not to do the promotion process and just moved to California and pursue comedy. And that was 4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
And so I read that you went to a very elite school, university.
Yeah.
Which school did you go to?
Dartmouth College.
Really?
It's one of the Ivies. But I didn't get indoctrinated, and I think a lot of it has to do with not going to class as much as I probably should have.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You're a very smart guy. So you are a comedian?
Yeah, it's hard to classify myself. I'm trying to, get involved in a little bit of everything.
Right.
But I made the channel originally as an entertainment piece for conservatives because I think the media and entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Hollywood, everything is geared to the left.
Right.
And the right is so underserved.
That's right.
That when I released one comedy video from a protest, it went super viral. And it's
Right.
like, oh, no one's giving you guys entertainment? I'll do that.
That's good. You were surprised by that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been making comedy for a while. I tried to make, this is years ago, I tried to make memes. I wrote a musical and directed a musical. I did all these funny things that I thought were good, but it was hard to really engage an audience. And then once I started making these videos, people loved it. March for Truth here, June 3rd, Pershing Square, downtown LA. What made you make the sign? Like, what did you see that was like, all right, this is Russia-U.S. collusion?
Basically, he's working for him. I mean, Trump is working for Putin.
Like, how so, though?
That's all going to come out. What did I see concretely? I can't point to any one thing.
Which do you think was the biggest issue in the main election this year?
Probably the part where Russia was involved with hacking the email, and
Do you think, they didn't prove that Russia was the one that hacked it.
that's true. But, I'm sorry.
He's calling for attacks against women. He's calling for attacks against gays and homosexuals. The whole regime has got to go.
Attacks against gays, I've not heard about that.
I don't have a specific thing that
He's trying to destroy Obama's legacy because he was extremely, his feelings were hurt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and he hates Obama with a passion. So everything he does is just about embarrassing and destroying the legacy.
Do you really think that's how the world works?
No, I think that's how Trump works.
And you think that a president of our country is just putting things into place just to get back at Obama for being rude to him?
Yeah, actually, I do.
And we're here protesting the ties to Russia. Maxine, what about your retirement fund ties to Russia, $200,000?
That's a lie.
It's a lie!
So are your buddies, are they surprised by this, your friends?
Yeah. A lot. So basically, I lost pretty much all my friends.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I don't care. I don't care. But yeah, I basically lost all my friends.
That happened to me, too. I was a Democrat at one time, a liberal. When I switched to become a conservative Republican, I lost a lot of my friends.
Yeah. But the thing I think is redeeming about it is I may have lost all my friends, but I was sitting in their place not too long ago.
That's
so
right.
I was a liberal who
That's
didn't really
right.
follow politics, but felt morally superior and thought I knew what was going on. So I sat in their chair, and then I left it to the conservative side. And I think that we see that more often. People that consider themselves leftist to go to the right, then more people are going from the right to left.
I noticed that on your mic you have, is that a spoon?
It's a wooden spoon.
A wooden spoon. Why that? What's it purpose?
So for my first video, I was going to LAX to interview protesters who were mad at the Muslim ban.
Oh, I remember that.
Muslim ban.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to I needed to hold my microphone, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna tape it to a spoon. I'm gonna wear my stupid outfit. I have this dumb beard and fat face. They're gonna think I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go interview them, and they're gonna open up to me. And the reason I chose the spoon is because I have an Italian mom, and growing up, if I misspeak, she gets mad whenever I say she used to whack me with the spoon,
Yeah.
but so she used to threaten me with the spoon. But growing up, I misbehaved. I heard the drawer open, all the utensils shift, she grabbed the spoon, and it's run.
I noticed that when you ask these people, these protesters, these liberal protesters questions, they seem to be not very bright. It's as though they're protesting, but they don't really know the issues that they're protesting. Have you noticed the same thing?
Absolutely. They are really comfortable in a group atmosphere.
Yeah.
They like the idea of coming out in the morning with their sign. They take pictures of each other's signs. They share them on social media. Oh, it's so cool. They do the chants. But that is comforting to them because they're part of the group and they think, oh, I'm right, he's right. We all couldn't be wrong.
Right.
But if you pull them out one by one and say, all right, let's talk about guns. What should we do? And they give you a vague response like, oh, ban assault weapons.
All right.
What's an assault weapon? Which side are you on? I'm not doing this interview anymore.
Yeah.
So it's very shallow. Their knowledge is very shallow, and they are just the loudest, most outraged voices. And in a culture right now, it's like a outrage culture, their voices have value for some reason.
They also seem to be very angry, and I often wonder, why are you so angry? You don't even understand the issues. Have you noticed that they're angry?
Very angry.
They are angry. Why are they so angry when they really don't know the issues? They don't understand what's going on.
I think a lot of it comes down to like cultural Marxism in a way. I think Andrew Breitbart really touched on it years ago, and those things are all still true today. They're the oppressed, and anyone who appears to be against them or on the other side is the oppressor, and they're convinced. So they've basically been brainwashed by the mainstream media to believe Trump supporters are Nazis, or anyone who isn't supporting the gun march wants more mass shootings or more children dead, and it's ridiculous.
It is.
And they've really, I think a lot of it has to do with the echo chambers too. They're so buried in their own echo chamber that when they do meet someone from the other side, their first reaction is, oh, it's one of those Nazis.
Right.
Like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna try to do? And meanwhile, it's me on the street, like, hey, like, what's going on? Let's talk about it. And whenever I try to, push them a little bit and like really pry and say, why do you feel this way? What do you really believe? How did you form that opinion? They kind of scatter. They don't like to go there.
At any time, do you find some of them are independent thinkers, even though they're out there protesting, or do they all seem to have the same mindset?
There's a few independent thinkers, and there's some people in there who I think will soon be more right-leaning, just because what's right and what's left now is so different from what it used to be. So anyone who's like even in the middle or slightly left can be considered right-wing now. Like we're seeing that with like Dave Rubin and just real normal independent central thinkers. There's some people who bring up points like the military-industrial complex, and I'll agree with them and say, yeah, maybe we were overly involved in certain areas for our own best, best interest. Maybe that was a little insincere and bad for the world. Like I can agree on certain issues like that, but for the most part, it's people that are watching the news who think they're educated and think it's on them to stop Hitler before he rose to power in the 30s. It's like one of those things. They think that's what it is.
So this comes from the brainwashing of the educational system?
I think educational system for sure, and the news, the media and education for years has been strongly pushing their agenda, and now we're seeing the fruits of it. We're seeing the results, and it's scary.
So do you get threats and things like that?
I actually haven't had it too bad. I hear stories of people online who get threats and things sent to their house, and their families get phone calls. Everyone's been pretty cool to me.
Are you concerned about that?
I am getting more concerned about it now, just because the stakes are getting higher, and I think we're heading more into the culture war than we've ever been.
I do too.
I think it's upon us at this point. So now I'm a little more aware and more I guess worried, but more aware of my security. But I'm not that worried. Even in the protests, I never feel like scared or looking around too much. I kind of just do my thing, and I haven't had any issues.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for a year and a half.
Oh, great, man. I wish you well. I'm loving the fact that you're out there. Were you an Obama supporter at any time?
Yeah.
You voted for Obama?
In college, no, I didn't vote for Obama, but I supported him.
Really?
In
Why?
college, I just didn't care. I really didn't pay attention. But hope, change, first black president, bring the country together. And even in his speeches, he cried, I think, during the Sandy Hook speech, and you're like, wow, this guy cares.
Wow.
And that's where I think a lot of the depth from people's political opinions on the left is. It's like, oh, I want Bernie Sanders because you can tell he cares.
I know.
And it's like, you're talking about acting then.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Seeming like you care is the new value at that point.
I didn't support Obama at all at any point. I knew when I read and heard that he was a member of Jeremiah Wright's Junior Church for 20 years. He hated whites, he hated anything that's good. Obama had to agree with that to sit there for 20 years. And then when asked about it, oh, I didn't know that he was a racist. And so when he lied about that, I said then, this man is worse than Jesse Jackson, Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, and Jeremiah Wright put together. And 8 years proved that I was right. Mm-hmm. He was a wicked man.
Oh, absolutely.
A socialist. What do you think of the Great White Hope?
I love him. I was going to try and say the Great White Hope before you could. I'm going to let you know I've been saying the Great White Hope. But it's what an incredible time to be alive.
Man.
This is it.
When he first announced that he was running, and he said, "I'm going to put a wall, big beautiful wall around the borders, deport illegal aliens, bring back jobs, restrictions are gone, but make the country first." I said then, this will be our next president.
Wow.
And I never doubted along the way. Did you know right away that he would win?
I didn't know right away that he would win, but I was, in a way, pleasantly surprised and reassured in our system because Hillary was so establishment that I thought, and I don't, I thought even if it was close, she would kind of find a way to win because I didn't trust the system. I thought that was the whole problem. And the fact that he was elected just completely re-energized me and got me excited about our political system.
What is it about him exactly do you like or respect?
I think politicians, especially politicians that get wealthy in office, there's a lot of sketchiness that goes along with that. And the fact that he's independent, he's self-made, he took a loan and turned into a multi-billion-dollar brand. I think that was so impressive. And people at times tell me that I don't criticize him enough. I'm like blindly supportive, and maybe I kind of am, but in a way, not because if I disagree with him on a policy, I'm going to just say, oh, I'm off the Trump train, I'm done with him. I say, hey, he's our guy, he's in that seat. Anything that comes across his desk, yes or no, I trust him to make the decision. And if he makes one where he kind of seems like he's selling us out, I think he'll use it as leverage on the back end of the next thing.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I see it the same exact way.
And it's like, maybe people play their role. Ann Coulter, you can get mad at Trump and tweet about him, fine. But I think we're never going to have a president like this in the position to clean it up and get things done. So I support him no matter what. If he strikes Syria and people are like, oh, I'm done with Trump, I hate him, it's like, well, what did he strike in Syria?
That's right.
Did he kill anyone? Did we go to war with Russia? No. So maybe it was a well thought out plan.
When he went there, a lot of my friends were like, oh no, he's just the same. They were giving up on him. I'm like, no, be cool. He knows exactly what he's doing. I trust this president like no other president I've ever experienced.
Me too, exactly. And I really do think he's doing it for the people.
He is.
You can feel it. And I think you may agree with this. When you have like we've kind of developed our followings and an audience, you can kind of have like a pulse on the people. And you can tell who cares about what and what, the way to look at things. And with him, I think he has a really good pulse on the people.
Me too,
and the people are coming first no matter what.
So you're happy with him so far? He's been
Very
there a
happy.
year and a few months now. You're happy?
Very happy.
I am too.
Yeah.
Is there anything about him that you disagree with?
No.
I can't find anything either.
I could say, his tweeting, but I love his tweeting.
I love the tweet.
It's hilarious.
Please tweet.
Tweet.
That's
I love it. In the beginning, I was like, he called Rocket Man, called him Rocket Man. And then in my head, I'm like, all right, where do I go with this? Do I get mad and say I wish he was more presidential, like Obama, who was so presidential? Or do I say, hey, that's the outsider we elected, and he's mixing it up? And look, he got it done.
That's
65 years. They haven't been able to do it. Obama, I don't take meetings. We don't talk to those people. They live, And he's just like, all right, what do you want? Let's get it done. What do you want to do? You want to make a deal? Okay, let's do it.
How many illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants do you think there are in the U.S. right now?
Something like 12 to 15 million, maybe.
Where do you think the number could get to?
I would be fine with 100 million.
That's like a third or a quarter of the population.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
So would you say we're all immigrants?
Yeah.
Were you born in America?
Yes, I was.
So you're not an immigrant. Where is the fascism we're seeing from this regime?
The immigration ban, like targeting minorities, people that aren't white generally. Pence being against LGBT people, wanting to execute them.
When did he say that?
When he was, I don't know, before this. I know that he was in favor of the death penalty for LGBT people.
I'm trying to talk to Antifa. Is any of you guys in Antifa? No. Proud to be American?
No.
Which country would you rather be from? Where would you rather live right now if you could pick anywhere?
I don't believe in the abstraction of a state or a nation.
Michael, what are some things that America's done that you're embarrassed about?
Coming, like white European settlers coming to this country and just slaughtering Native Americans to build a settler colonialist state, just like they're doing.
Whose fault is that? Is that my fault? Is it your fault?
No, and I never said it was.
What's your opinion of the alt-right?
I think, so I don't have too much experience with the alt-right.
I've interviewed several of them, and the impression that I have, white people have been suppressed for so many years now, and white men have been accused of the failure of black people, the gays, the homosexuals. White people are being blamed for everything. And in the past, white men and women have been afraid to speak up. because they have not wanted to be called racist. They should not do it with anger so that they have a more positive effect. But I think that's what it is. They've been so suppressed for so long, and now they feel like they can come out and speak out a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. I think anyone with an opinion should speak out.
It's fine, man.
And I think a lot of times too, like I've met people in the alt-right at some point, and they were friendly, they were nice. They didn't say, oh, by the way, like, let's get the Jews after this. It's like, you know, they were cool and they were normal, but they have some political views I don't necessarily agree with or associate with, but that's what I think makes this country great. Go talk about it. If you can get a room full of people who agree, maybe you're onto something.
That's right.
But if you shut them down before they even get a chance to speak, now they live in like the shadow world where it's like, oh, like, what do they say? And then you actually get them to attract more followers, I think.
They tried. I interviewed Richard Spencer, and one thing I said to him that he has to drop this anger. He can't be hating people, because if they hate, they're going to end up in the same ditch with black people. Most black people who are accusing white people for their failure. You have to speak up, but don't be angry. And so if they can drop that anger. I remember when they had that thing in, I believe it was Virginia. Was that Virginia when they had that riot? The alt-right held a rally.
Charlottesville.
Yeah, Charlottesville. Yeah. And the president said, both sides are wrong. We need love. Let's not be hateful. And the media tried to turn that on the president and call him an alt-right and a Klan supporter and all that. Do you remember that incident?
Of course. And then people always bring that up, like, oh, he said there's good people on both sides. And yeah, but there were.
That's right.
There are people there, you know, if you agree with them or not, doing their First Amendment right and having a rally and getting permits from the city.
Yeah,
they were conservative reporters
right.
like Faith Goldie who were there, who were good people covering the event. There were left-leaning reporters who were good people covering the event. And the fact that it got violent, I don't think it had to do necessarily with the people there themselves. I think it had to do with the policing and what they allowed happen.
Well,
they
what
put
happened
them in the
was
streets.
Antifa showed up, and they showed up armed and ready to start a riot. Had Antifa not shown up, there would not have been a riot.
I totally agree.
Yeah, those guys had permission. So you are a millennial, right?
I'm a millennial.
And why is it that most millennials seem to be liberals or liberal?
I think most millennials are liberal. There's a few reasons. I think a major one is the left promotes a lifestyle where you don't have to be responsible.
Right.
I think back in the day when my parents grew up, they were married in their 20s, they had kids in their late 20s, 30s, they had a house, my dad had to work and get promoted and make more money, and it had responsibility. And when you have that kind of life, you value your efforts and your time and your family and everything so much more. You take more responsibility and you kind of become conservative, you kind of grow up.
Yeah.
But now everyone my age is living with roommates, they live at home, they have no job or like a dead-end job, they're in debt, and it's easier to blame the game. I think we live in a world where the millennials, because of the participation trophies and stuff from when they were younger, live in a world where anything that's hard is oppression.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, it's hard, what can I do to get better? What can I do to improve?
That's right.
Instead of saying, oh, it's hard, it's because you didn't hire me because I'm a woman, or it's because you fired me because I'm black, or it's because you won't, you know, and they keep doing that and trying to change the game when realistically they're not prepared to fail, which is the problem.
That's amazing.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hello, everybody. Troll your liberal family members by getting them our brand new Fallen State t-shirts. On the front, it says, The Fallen State. On the back, it says, That's amazing. And don't forget our coffee mugs. The front, The Fallen State. The back, Did you have fun? And don't forget my book, The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. You can out of here. You can go to the TheFallenState TV and order now. The generation under you, that's Generation Z.
Yeah.
I read that they tend to lean toward conservatism, that they are more conservative. Do you find the same thing?
Definitely. A lot of my fans are Generation Z. And it's like these young kids that like to live on like the Reddit and 4chan and all over YouTube, and they don't get their news at all from CNN or anything on TV. They're just researched, and they know there's so much information out there that these kids are like, it's kind of like a cool counterculture to be involved in, to look things up and know the truth and take the unpopular opinion.
So it's because one of the reasons that they're not getting their news from TV, from CNN, that they're getting it from the internet. So it's having a different impact on the way they see things. That's amazing. So Generation Z is 19 and under, is that right?
I believe so. It's mostly high school kids, yeah.
Right. That's nice to know then, huh?
Yeah, it's really reassuring. And I think it's the most conservative generation, I think, since Reagan. And I think at this point they're surpassing, which is exciting.
That is so amazing to hear that, because I would think the millennials are mostly liberal thinking, that the Z would be even worse. But because of not getting the news from the TV, are their parents teaching them to be more responsible as well? Or?
I think it could be almost a reaction to their liberal parents, and it could be like a rebelling type thing, where they don't want to be the liberal parents that they have, or they do see the difference and challenge in a way where a few years ago, my generation, the generation before me, maybe did the opposite, where their parents were conservative and they said, no, I'm going to be a liberal.
Right.
And now it's kind of just going back and forth like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that gives me hope for the country.
Definitely. And when it comes to the new brand of conservatives, I think the left hasn't rebranded. They keep pushing Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi. They don't rebrand. The right has rebranded to the point where it's like, I support Trump. I guess I'm a Republican, but I think Republican and Trump are two different things.
Right.
And I think it becomes like a good versus evil. I really do believe that. And I think we're living in a time now, there's like a revolution happening, and the freest thinkers have the least amount of mental prisons.
Yes.
And that's kind of what Kanye's been talking about too.
That's right.
So it's like you can agree with people who are on all kinds of the spectrum politically, but it's like it's a revolution of freeing yourself from the mental prisons. If you can break away as many mental prisons as possible and follow those that do the same thing, you won't fall into the traps of CNN and the mainstream news.
So what's your impression of what Kanye West is doing? I can tell you like it. Are you surprised that he's speaking out in the manner that he is, Kanye West?
Not so much. I'm not surprised, because he did have that rant 2 years ago where he was on stage and was like, Hillary Clinton is not the answer. And they took him off and put him in the hospital. But I kind of knew he had this in him. And I think this is huge. That was like the first shot fired in the culture war when he said, I like the way Candace Owens thinks.
Maxine Waters, you know who she is, right? The Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
With the low IQ.
Swampy Waters.
Right. She said Kanye West should be quiet. He should just shut up. He doesn't really know what he's doing. And that he should be careful because he's influencing the black community. And so it said to me that that's the last thing that you want, is for someone like him to influence black Americans, because they will start to think for themselves and leave the plantation of the Democratic Party. And the Democrats don't want that to happen.
Exactly. And every time someone comes out and attacks him, they prove his point.
Yes.
Like, because remember a few years ago, people could be Republicans and Democrats. Like my family, extended family, my cousins and stuff, it kind of gets split. My cousins are mostly liberal and they voted for Hillary.
Yep.
But before that, it was like, oh, you come over, what do you think about Obama? Oh, I didn't like this, I did like this, whatever. Everyone leaves, agree to disagree.
Right.
Now, you can't even have a conversation.
Yeah.
So for him to come out and make that point, it's huge, because when they do attack him and say, oh, Kanye's mentally ill, or oh, Kanye, you don't know the facts, it's actually the opposite.
Yep.
He does know the facts.
Yeah.
He was on one side and he got to the other side. Everyone else has just been on the left side.
That's right.
So it's like he's seen both worlds, they haven't, and now they attack him, and it's like, here it is. Here's the mob trying to silence my voice, just like I said.
I really appreciated the fact when he said that blacks have been enslaved for 400 years. And, why? How could that last so long? Then he came back and said, well, it seemed as though they were physically enslaved for 400 years as well as mentally enslaved. And he doesn't want them to spend another 400 years being enslaved. And I was a guest on Piers Morgan's show out of the UK, and they were asking me about that. And we got to this thing about Black Lives Matter. And I said that Black Lives Matter is a far left, liberal, radical, agitative, evil organization built up by black lesbians and homosexuals and white social justice warriors. They cut my mic. They ended the show when I said that. This was in the UK a couple of nights ago. And I found out later that in the UK, you're not allowed to speak against homosexuality. You can't say it. And the host that was there with him, she said, you can't even think that. So over there, they're controlling what you say and what you think. Do you see that happening here if that doesn't change and people don't speak up more?
I think we were on the verge of that. If Hillary had gotten elected, I think we'd be in a different world than we are right now.
Yeah.
I think we might be at war with Russia. I think we'd have a ton more migrants here. I think we'd have pretty much open borders, or allowing, on the way to open borders.
Yep.
So I think we dodged a bullet, and we took a big stand. So I think what we're seeing. Did you see the pug that does the Nazi salute?
No.
So there's a guy called Count Dankula, I think his name was. He taught his dog to raise its arm, and I think he's going to jail for it.
Really?
Yeah, I believe it's the UK. So it's kind of it's a sign that, like, they take your guns, and then they take, oh, you can't post this on social media. Oh, this is illegal to say the wrong thing, and then soon, it's the thought police.
Yeah.
Full on.
Diamond and Silk, they are right? YouTubers. They were just at a hearing in D.C. and they were talking about how they're being attacked now. Their freedom is being taken away from them. I'm hoping that the president get more involved so that can end as well. Because if he exposed what's happening on YouTube with the conservatives, I think things will start to change. Are you Republican conservative?
I guess I just consider myself conservative.
Oh, okay.
And like the political labels, I think, are kind of limiting. I want to say good versus evil. I want to say winner versus loser mentality. I think Trump's a winner.
All the
way. I think we put a winner in the seat.
Yeah.
We're a winner country. You get it done, and I think that's what it's about. So I'm like a Trump conservative.
Would you consider President Trump being a real man?
Yes.
And what is a man?
What is a man? I think to further label it would be to limit it more. I think a man is a person, just like everyone else.
A person?
A person.
Is there a difference between a beta male and an alpha male?
Yep.
What's the difference?
I think on a primal level, there are some physical differences and mental development differences, and I think some people are born more alpha, some people are born more beta. It's presence, body language, tone of voice, those kind of things.
And what are you, alpha or beta?
I think I'm an alpha.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Every guy say that.
Every guy says that. But I wouldn't say I consider myself a beta. I guess the only other answer would be, I don't know.
I think you're a young alpha male. For you to be doing what you're doing at 28 years old, you have to be. You can't be a beta and do what you do.
Cool. Yeah, I think that might be true.
And I think you'll get stronger and stronger in it, and especially since you don't have fear. You don't have fear, right? Yeah, you're going to be fine. I'm glad to know you. We need more alpha male out there, especially white ones, because white men have been afraid to stand up for fear of being called racist and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you believe racism exists?
I think racism existed. I think racism exists in smaller scales than what's being given to us and displayed to us. I think right now the term racist is so loosely used that it waters down the actual meaning. Yeah. So if there's a racist person who's a problem in the town, like that's the guy, he's the racist. But now everyone's a racist, and you can't go to, people go to Starbucks and Starbucks is racist, like things like that. So everything is now so racist that it's hard to tell who is and who isn't anymore.
I grew up on you might not notice, I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama under the Jim Crow laws. I worked in cotton fields and all that. And the word racism or racist never came up. Wow. I never heard it until after the civil rights movement started. We were always told it was right or wrong, good or evil. It's a spiritual battle, not a physical one. And in that way, we knew that people can overcome, you can get better. But if you call it racist, which is a physical thing, how can you prove who's racist? And how will you ever resolve it if you believe it's a physical thing? I just think the liberals made that up, the children of the lie. I call them the liberal media, the Democratic Party, the rhinos, and the race hustlers. I call them the children of the lie. They made that word up in order to divide and conquer, that they may gain power and wealth.
Exactly.
It's a made up word.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly that. Yeah, you nailed it. That's the issue. And if you're trying to have a conversation, here's person A, here's person B. They're trying to, prove a point and get something accomplished. Once person A is shut down because, he's a racist, and they challenge the reason the person's bringing up a point. Yeah. Like if I were to say, Black Lives Matter, I don't agree with it I think black on black crime is a big issue, and especially in these big cities.
Yep.
People would say, well, you're not black, you can't talk about it, or you're racist, or you don't have that experience. And now it's like, now we can't talk. Now I can't respond to you, you can't respond to me, because the conversation's over because you don't engage with the racist.
That's right.
So now nothing's happening, and you're almost shielding both sides, or shielding each other away, and growing hate for each other.
Yeah.
And what's going to eventually come from that, if we don't fix it, is going to be a violent civil war.
That happened with Barack Obama. A lot of white people voted for Barack. I call him the fallen messiah, and Michelle is Big Mama. Did you know that?
I didn't know you called that.
And so a lot of white people elected Barack thinking that, well, if we give black people a black president, then they would know we are not against them. Whites are not against them. But when they put him in there, it got worse. The races are more divided under Barack than any other time. And whenever you criticize Barack, disagree with him, you were called racist. So instead of getting better, it got worse. Did you notice that?
Yeah, 100%. And the results from Barack Obama's presidency, just a couple basic ones, it's like less policing in urban areas, a hatred for the police.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite. Like, I love the police. But in college even, I was kind of like, oh, like, watch out for the cops. Who else risks their life and heads towards the problem like that and tries to solve it?
That's right.
And all these cases of the young black men that were unarmed or shot, it's like every single time there's a little something that the media doesn't tell you.
That's right.
And
exactly.
It's easy to say, oh, he was just standing, behind his grandpa's house and he got shot. And it's like, okay, he also was breaking into cars and ran away.
That's right.
And then the cops now are in a chase, and then any sort of movement, it's way sketchier than just, hey, I'm not doing anything and the cop is going like this. That's not what's happening.
That's right, man.
But once they spread that, and we see with the fake news a lot too, the news comes out and the damage is done within the first few hours.
Just like that.
And they can come out and correct it. Oh, actually, it wasn't this. Or actually, we were wrong about that. And the redaction gets, 10 retweets.
Amazing. When you first put yourself out there, were you nervous at all?
Yeah, I was a little bit. And the first people that picked me up were InfoWars.
Oh, really?
So I was like heavy in my left echo chamber just because I never really got political. And then I kind of jumped into the right echo chamber. But in that transition time, I got a lot of overlapping comments, and it was kind of nerve-wracking for a little bit, but everything I said or presented I knew was true.
Yes.
So if you're going to challenge me on an unfortunate fact, like that's a you problem. That's not on me.
That's right. I saw you on Tucker Carlson show on Fox News Channel. What was that like for you? Were you surprised to end up there?
It was cool. I was really nervous. But I was surprised because I'd only been doing it at that point for like a year.
Right.
And I only put out, I think, 8 videos or so at that point.
Amazing.
And then I'm on Tucker Carlson, one of the biggest right-leaning platforms ever. And that was like really reassuring, and it was really a cool moment for me because I saw like the potential of this whole thing.
You didn't look nervous at all. You handled yourself very, very well.
Oh, thank you.
You're very mature. Now that your profile is bigger, are you recognized when you're out in the streets now?
A little bit more, yeah. Definitely. If I go out 10 times, 2 times, someone will say something or stop and kind of be like, hey, like keep it up, love the videos. You're
going to need a bodyguard because your enemies are going to try to attack you now in the public.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, especially Antifa. They have like this like whole subculture of like take down the right-wing Nazis. But I'm always prepared. I'm a bigger guy too.
You're a big guy. They're going to think twice.
Yeah, and that's kind of happened to protests too. Like, people can talk and get loud, but I'm a bigger guy. I'm not going to get beat up by some Antifa communist kid.
What's your impression of them?
They're brutally disenfranchised.
Yeah.
They're a struggling group. They want something bigger than themselves to apply themselves to, and they're probably unemployed or have a bad job. They're in student loan debt. They're educated, which is a huge thing. They think, oh, I'm smart. I went to college. I know things, as if they're the ones who are in charge of like where our culture should head.
Yeah.
But they do like the idea of being in Nazi Germany and stopping Hitler before he rises to power. They think they're doing like a real thing that the culture needs, which is really scary.
Have you ever interviewed any of them?
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
A lot of them, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And was there anything interesting about what they said or how they reacted to you?
Really interesting. They're cool with violence.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool to punch a Nazi. And I said, okay, so how do we get rid of the Nazis? And they said, same thing they did in World War II. We got to kill them. So,
That's amazing.
but they're convinced, and they like to dress up. They like to wear the outfits and cover their face. They
Yeah.
think they're part of like this, epic movement. When in reality, they're just useful
I'm
idiots.
surprised that they're allowed by law to protest with masks on and bring these weapons and things. I guarantee you, if the alt-right were doing that, it'd be a different story. Why are they allowed to do it, especially knowing they're so violent?
I think a lot of it has to do with the local government. So when I was in Berkeley, the first Berkeley riot was really bad, and that was because the mayor, I believe, told them stand down, the police to stand down, and they had the mask rule, so you can kind of do anything you want anonymously.
Yeah.
When I went there the second time, they had a no mask rule, and nothing happened. Because everyone had their cameras out, everyone's face was showing, so it really just limited the violence. So I think a lot of it comes down to local government and what the local government wants to happen or not happen.
Do you know exactly what they want, Antifa? What do they want? And do you think that they know?
It's almost ironic with them because they're the anti-fascists,
Right.
but everything Trump has done, there's nothing really that you could be considered fascist, I don't think. And if you want to talk about fascism, I would say Obama getting the government involved in healthcare, the economy, and energy would be one of those is majorly fascist, but all three, and people don't even look at it. So they're convinced that Trump's a fascist and he's just like a fat cat corporate guy who's trying to deepen his pockets. Meanwhile, I think he lost $1 billion since he's been elected. So they just think they're fighting they're in a just war and they're fighting for the just cause. They think they're saving America.
I believe that the workers should unanimously just choose to take the means of production, and then I believe that the workers should control the means of production.
Okay. So, like, how would we implement that in the U.S.? Well, what would the plan be if you were to, have your way?
You believe in God?
So growing up, I grew up Catholic. I was baptized. I was confirmed. I went to Catholic high school. I never really took it seriously. I went away from God in college. I thought, everyone's listening to that book. It's causing all these wars. But now that I've followed politics, I'm heading back towards religion. And out of nowhere, I opened the Bible a couple months ago. Just so my friends please just give it a try. It's like the ultimate piece of content. So I'm like, okay. So I opened it, I did a book on tape, and I read along. And the first verse I opened was talking about people in the streets publicly outraged without knowing the facts. It was about a protest, basically. And I was like, whoa. So now I listen to the Bible, and it is it's the best content out there. Everything applies. You can learn from so many different stories and how they, all the different stories just teach you so much.
Yeah.
And it applies across your entire life. It's like the ultimate guidebook.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back around.
So did you go atheist all the way or something?
I just didn't care. I just didn't go anything. I didn't know what was what. I maybe was more spiritual. But now I'm realizing that there is something more. This isn't an accident, this planet.
Do you believe that human beings are in a fallen state?
Yeah.
You do?
Absolutely.
And what does that mean to be in a fallen state?
I think our value system is out of whack.
Yeah.
I think what's important and what built this country and made it so strong, successful, and opportunistic for anyone is now gone.
Yeah.
And the fabric of the country is being destroyed under the guise of political correctness, equality, anti-racism, all these things that seem like good ideas on paper. It's actually destroying the fundamental cloth that brings us all together.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing with Europe is another example. I think they're basically a few years ahead of us.
Right.
And that's what radical progressive policy gets you. And I think we're all in a fallen state, but I think America has a chance to bring it back.
I do too. White, straight, conservative, Christian men, especially those in power, are under attack. It seems as though all the people of color, no matter Chinese, blacks, or whatever, they hate white men. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
And why is that?
I think they attribute white men to all the problems of our society, but also ignore all the value and benefits white men at some point in our history had made. They'll say, oh, white people, you know, they enslaved all the people from Africa and those countries built on slavery. But we also fought a civil war, and hundreds of thousands of people died to end slavery. And slavery is not like a white man concept. Slavery's been going on with the Asians, with the Muslims, with the Slavs.
Even with blacks. Blacks sold other blacks into slavery. As a matter of fact, in Africa, the elitists, the rich blacks, used the poor blacks as money. Whenever they wanted to bargain, they sold a person to whomever they were trying to make a deal with.
There's still black slavery happening today. There's still a slave trade in Libya.
Right.
People want to attribute and say, oh, all the world's problems are caused by America, white America. And with that, you spit on history. When you do that, it's like, then, all right, who are we really fighting against? The good seems to be people that love America. It's not perfect, but it's pretty, it's pretty good compared to everywhere else. And the other side is people that hate it.
So the white man founded and created America, the greatest country on this side of heaven. And then they created the Constitution. And one big mistake they made in the Constitution was to allow these people to come here freely from other countries. And then they're coming to your house and turning on you. Why don't white people stop these people from coming? If you're going to come to my house and turn on me, I'm going to stop you from coming. Why won't they stop it?
I think it's a lack of information. I think the people that you're mentioning, like the liberals especially, that want open borders and, oh, the people want to come here, they just want a better life. But it's like, guess what? If you brought everyone here who wants a better life, you're done. There's billions of people that live there's billions of people that live in like horrible conditions and brutal poverty. You can't solve global poverty and humanitarian issues with immigration. And they see the caravan, oh, it's just people that want to work. They're working. And it's like, there's billions of people, India, China, everywhere that want to come here that want to work. But if you just let them all in, they think they're doing the right thing, but they're really destroying the country.
But nowadays they're coming here and they're getting on the system. Free education, free housing, free money, free food, and free everything. They're not necessarily coming here to work anymore. And the Democrats are bringing them just for the votes. They just want to vote. It's not that they care about the illegals, they just want the votes. How can people watch your YouTube channel? How can they find it?
YouTube.com/Fleccas Talks. And then Instagram at Fleccas, Fleccas. So that's the best way to find it. And Twitter as well.
I really have a lot of respect for you, especially being 28 and being white and having the courage to do what you do. Keep it up, and if I could be of any help to you at all, let me know.
Thank you.
Anything I can do to help you.
Appreciate it. I love your show. And when they reached out to me, I was so excited. I couldn't wait. I rewatched all the old episodes just to get ready, and I'm so pumped to be here, so thank you.
Right on. I appreciate that. My final question, do you know what that is?
Do I have fun?
Yeah. Thanks for watching The Fallen State. We need your continued support. Donate to my nonprofit here. Subscribe and like the videos here. And tell everybody and their mama about the show.